Well, so tell me a little bit about your role and what you're doing today.
I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at Navy Federal Credit Union, which is the largest credit union in America, 14 million members. We serve active duty veterans and their families for their full financial needs. So I'm really here, as well as a lot of our management team and some of our board members, to really, how can we learn more, think about what we need to go back and apply for our businesses and our members, and keeping up with what's happening in the industry. It's a nice way to kind of do some speed dating, but with industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot to learn and observe and take from this on the fintech side, especially. So tell me a little bit about how you've gotten to where you are. So you're running marketing for a very major institution. Tell me a little about your career journey.
Thank you for asking, and I love it. I feel like I'm incredibly blessed with this job. I am really a agency geek. I grew up in the agency world, and interesting enough, I 7 years ago took this job. Navy Federal was my client, so I knew the brand and I knew the culture, and I also knew the opportunity in front of us. So the chance to go client side and lead that effort was really appealing to me. So that's how I got there. But I've worked on a lot of different industries. I've kind of cut my teeth on some services businesses and banking, et cetera, and some big banks, which I think helped bring some financial industry experience, but also have worked in packaged goods and retail, a little bit of everything. So I think that cross-section of just industry training helped, and also a knowledge of both the power of creative as well as the investment needed for media. And the combination of both those, where you're really doing that in an agency team and leading a team that has specialists on both sides, was probably what I could help bring to Navy Federal.
When you were sitting on the agency side for Navy Federal and then you went in-house, how did you feel that your role or your perspective changed in terms of the things you had to prioritize?
It changes a lot. One of the things that was really interesting to me is when you're on the agency side, you're almost a consultant. You're a brand, you're about growth for the business, you're a brand specialist, you know a lot about the branding, a lot about the metrics that matter. That said, you know very little, or at least I did, about the operational component to making those things happen. And I will say for Navy Federal, because we're a service brand, service really is our point of difference. People come to bank with us because of who we serve and our values as a credit union. They also come to us as a value in terms of what we offer them. But the real point of difference for us is about service. So anything you do, thinking about how it impacts the front line, is tremendous. We answer close to 1 million calls a week at the call center. And some of the things that we might deploy, send out, advertise, market, etc., sometimes will cause questions that we didn't even think about. But being able to listen not only to our members, but to our member service reps on what were the questions, what were the things that people found confusing, and then being able to be agile enough to adopt and change. And so the agency side, that part of it seems very simple. It's like, yeah, just make it happen. Where on the client side, part of we can market a lot of things, but if we don't market them well and we can't really deliver the service, then we haven't succeeded. So making sure that we're tuning in that delivery part against the messaging is really, really important on the client side.
That's a lot. Was that surprising to you as you walked into that role? Did you see it coming, or?
I knew it would be part of the job because we are a service brand, and service really makes a big difference. And our customer satisfaction scores, we call them members because we're a credit union, our member credit satisfaction scores are really one of the big 3 metrics that matter across the entire enterprise. So I knew it would be part of it. I just didn't realize, I probably just didn't know the how part of it. So figuring that out. And then also, I will say the transition from agency to client side is, I work hand in hand with our CTO, CIO, our member strategy office. I work really well with our channels, which are call centers and branch, as well as our CFO in terms of defending investments and showing that our investments really are, what we're spending is really an investment with an expected return. And I know that. So I have a lot of shareholders that are really part of my peer team, my management council. And I don't know about many of your member organizations, but I think in marketing, rarely do we do anything by ourselves. It takes that entire village, and it takes for the collaboration and just alignment too against those results and focus. So it is there's a lot of that in terms of really working well across the team internally, as well as then operationalizing what you're doing.
So let's talk a little about your internal team. So you lead a relatively large team of marketers. Tell me a little bit about your philosophy, your leadership philosophy, and how you view yourself as a leader.
Thanks for asking. I will say my team is, and probably this is true for everybody in marketing now, my team's pretty diverse. We have everything from data scientists to writers and art directors to people that are project managers to corporate communications and everything in between. So lots of left brain and right brain. And I think one of my big things has been for us as a team is we talk about being better together, and we are, in the context of making sure what we're doing and delivering to our business units and our partners internally is integrated. And we've thought about that. We've also thought about how we're going to measure it and then bringing back the results, which when you think about that, that's the doers as well as analyzing it and optimizing it. So full circle, full loop, all within my team. But those folks all have to show up together for it to work. I try to make sure, and I'm working on this always in the context of how do I build a safe environment for new ideas? When I first got to Navy Federal, I thought about, because let's face it, we all need innovation. We need innovation in terms of how we market our products. And I originally started a club where I said, okay, monthly we're going to have a lunch free that I pay for, but you can't come to the lunch unless you've had a failure. Because I wanted to make it safe for people to talk about the failures. And it's not a failure if you have a learning. So come share the learning. That bombed. No one wanted to come to the free lunch. And
no failure lunch, huh?
That was a little bit too vulnerable for people. And I really meant it as a way to help people embrace the failure and kind of get over that fear.
Yeah.
And it was like no way, Jose, am I going to do that? So since then, we've kind of thought about other ways that we could recognize without having everybody come together and socialize, like how do we share those learnings across teams? And as a leader, I still think that's my job one, making it easy for people to fail forward. And I call it failing forward because it's applying the learning so that it's forward, just moving versus moving back.
Yeah.
And how do we test big? We have an always-on testing program. Sometimes that's as simple as versionings that we're testing with different members and responses. Sometimes it's looking at alternative ways to achieve the same objective and move it forward together. But as a leader, I try to make sure the teams always know the goals. Mm-hmm. They know how we're going to measure the program and how success is defined and how it will be measured, and then hopefully give them the courage as well as the direction to explore and bring new to life.
Yeah. And when you talk about failing forward, do you also encourage people to kind of fail fast?
We do. I will tell you, we're probably not as good about failing fast. We have gotten we've grown in our maturity, and being able to embrace always on testing means there will be some failures. Mm-hmm. So those things have to be logged. So I think we've gotten better at the failing forward and sharing learnings with each other, and I think we're still working on fast. Mm-hmm. We implemented Agile 3-4 years ago, and that helped with fast because it's done in sprints. So people, and it does help with the prioritization. So but we're still working on that. How do you test faster, learn faster, and sometimes good is definitely better than perfect. And perfect can be the enemy of any kind of innovation. So we try to make sure that we're defining those goals when it's good enough to learn and go, versus when do we really need to make sure that things are a little more fine-tuned and perfect.
You mentioned optimization, which I feel is the word of the moment.
Yes, yes.
I think especially for marketers, we are always being asked, do more. Oh, but your budget's not increasing, or neither's your team size. How are you optimizing your team right now? How are you really fine-tuning to make sure you can deliver as much as you can?
Well, you hit it because optimization, I think, is the key word because we are all challenged with doing more with less. And I think that's driven by a couple of things, one of which is personalization. Members and customers just crave it. It's hard to do at scale, and it's hard to do it at scale quickly. So we're really always optimizing against that. And when does the personalization matter versus just trying to do it for everything? So we've started tiering some of the work to identify those opportunities when it does matter and when it could make a difference and when we just need to really get something out. And one of the things we've done is evolved our metrics a little bit to put things in three different buckets. The first is just informing. When do we need to tell somebody something? And that metric could be as simple as did somebody open it? The KPI is very simple. And the middle, we will talk about engagement. Is this something we need somebody to do something? And the something could be engage with a tool for their credit score. It could be, watching some video content on making sense, which for us is about financial health. And then the third bucket is about acquisition. And acquisition is that new product, that new account. And we try to make sure we're doing our marketing. We're focusing on all three of those buckets. Our optimizations, though, really come from identifying. We love to say yes. I think all the marketing people love to say yes.
Sure.
So we had gotten in the tendency of like, yes, let's do that in social. Yes, let's do this here. Let's do that in radio. Yes. Without sometimes looking at the channel optimization. Before we're saying we need everything, let's look at who we're talking to, about what, and which channel does the best, and willing to sacrifice some things along the way. And also having the courage to be open and honest with the reason that doesn't have 12 points of contact is we're going to have 3 that work really, really well and keep moving. So we, like everybody else, are always about doing less with more. I just want to make sure that the less we do is the right less.
Yeah.
And that is about picking the bigger opportunities and making sure we maximize those and have the time and the energy with the team to really focus on those.
You mentioned say yes, which actually brings up a question in my mind. As marketers, you mentioned yes. We like to say yes. We like to embrace new opportunities and try new things. But part of your role has heavy management of internal stakeholders, and you have a board. So when do you say no? And how do you manage some of those internal stakeholders and expectations around what your team can achieve and what maybe shouldn't be your top priority?
Right. Or sometimes it's a no, sometimes it's not now. It's like that could be a priority. We have a key business unit group that's rolling out a new product late next year that I can't talk about yet. And one of the things we've told people is like, so the first half, we're not going to spend a lot of time and effort on your old product line. We're going to wait and spend most of it here and make sure we have those conversations so that you're not just continuously being like, how about now? It's like, not now, not no, but not now. So in September, this is going to happen in a big way for you, and here's how it's going to look. So communication is really key, and explaining that rationale. One of the things we do too is in our Agile, we invite all the business units to the sprint sessions. So if you have any question on what we're doing, come to the session. We publicize the calendar, come see. And that has been really interesting for some of our smaller business units who are like, okay. And then they come and they're like, oh, I realize now why this other effort that reaches a broader base of our members is a higher priority than mine. Okay. And they're seeing it versus just having somebody say it. So that's been really helpful. I think part of it too is you go back to the criteria on what you evaluate to say yes to. Yeah. Is this really in the best interest of our members? Is this aligned with our brand and who we are? Is this part of our credit union community? So I'll give an example with naming rights. So we get approached a lot as the largest credit union to say, do you want the naming rights for the stadium, an arena? And those are things that are easy for us to say no to. And we say no quickly versus having people evaluate and look at it. And the reason we say no is part of our brand is about being part of the community. being part of the community means you're part of the neighborhood. You're there to salute for us veterans and active duty and their families, but we don't own the neighborhood. So that's an easy one, just to say this doesn't align with us. Thank you, goodbye. And then we'll look for other opportunities, like we are the military appreciation partner for the National Hockey League, and that's all league. The league's all teams, which obviously is very inclusive. And veterans and active duty both all love hockey, and the values are similar to ours. Work hard, play hard, and so it's a nice alignment. So being strategic about what you say yes to, versus spreading yourself too thin, where you can't really focus and do a good job on the initiatives that you've selected.
We're here at Money 2020, and the one word you can't stop hearing is AI. So I'm going to ask the question, are you using AI yet? And if so, how is it helping your team to optimize?
We're early on. We started with guidelines, and that sounds pretty basic, but I think that was really imperative, because otherwise AI does open up a lot of possibilities, but you have to use it responsibly. Well, who defines responsible, and what are the guardrails? So we started with guidelines, and the guidelines for us, we talked about that with our management council. We shared them with our board. We've shared them out in the context of this is the framework, and we work within these rails. For us, once again, as a service brand, and also thinking about who we serve, we've been very specific about there's always a human between AI application and the member. So that means we're not operating an AI chatbot that's answering all the member questions on its own.
Okay.
But we are piloting some things where we're helping our member service reps get to the right content faster to serve the members that are standing in front of them or are calling, so they can get to the right content quicker. So we're doing it that way. We also are on the marketing side specifically trying some copy where our person in front of between AI and the member is a writer, and we've used it to help us craft some copy to a specific persona. And if you think about a credit card product, the benefits are pretty much the same for everybody. That said, the features you care about could vary based on who you are and what life stage you are. So by having AI ingest our data on the persona, the segment, we know that this segment, for example, really cares about security. So let's make sure we talk about that in this copy. And then we'll look at that copy, and then always a writer will edit it. And then compliance, obviously, is making sure we're always staying compliant, too. So everything we do gets reviewed by compliance, too, to say, yep, this is within, you're cool, you're good to go. And the writer says this is more personalized. It does help us, and I do think it'll be a game changer for all of us in terms of the volume of work that you can make more personalized, but you've got to do it in a responsible way. Because if I know you as a brand and I trust you, and then all of a sudden you start sounding like everybody else's brand, it's not good.